All right, so let's get into it. Why I moved back to the US after living abroad, kind of off and on for like over 8 years. So I'll talk about it. I first left the country in 2012. I was offered to teach with Epic, which is basically just ESL. Anybody can teach ESL. Anybody with like a bachelor's degree in anything can teach ESL in the Epic program. Epic program is more like English exposure, so you're not really teaching grammar or like writing techniques or anything like that. It's literally for just exposure, because the Korean teachers are the ones that are they're the ones actually teaching like the actual writing and grammar and all that. Um, so I went to a teacher's job fair. I was approached by a recruiter for Epic, and that was like my first time um, going abroad was to Korea, South Korea. Um, I was also offered a position at the time to um, teach at a charter school, but I was already subbing at a charter school. Yeah, that's what happened. I was teaching at a charter school, and the charter school that I was subbing at offered me a position at the same time I was offered a position to teach in South Korea. And so I saw the writing on the wall. I was like, the way these kids are acting, I think I want to go to South Korea and see what's out there. So I went ahead, left for South Korea. I thought I would be only gone for like maybe that year. Ended up being more than a year. So I realized like, oh, living abroad is actually a lot easier because with these contracts, with these different teaching contracts, I don't have to pay rent. I don't have to pay utilities. Now with my South Korean contract, I did have to pay for heat. So I did pay for like the heating bill. I think water too, but yeah, and that's about it. So other than that, I didn't have to pay rent. And then I was in South Korea for like 2 years, and then I went ahead and got a job in Kuwait, which I was actually scared about because I had never lived in the Middle East. And I think the Middle East really, that whole experience of like getting over the fear of working in the Middle East kind of opened me up to basically being able to live anywhere that I desire and not be afraid of it, because when you hear on the news, like all these negative things about the Middle East, and I was scared to go. Even though I was offered a position, I was going to decline it. But I'm glad that I did go through that process, because I was able to um, learn truly how to adapt to different environments, and to make sure that I, are doing things that make me happy. And no matter what environment that I'm in, making sure that I'm doing things that make me happy, making sure that I'm, doing my hobbies, and, finding taking the time to find what's out there and giving it a try, and seeing if I want to add it to my schedule, things of that nature, right? But one thing I noticed about living in these countries, and I've worked at other schools after Kuwait, because once I decided I didn't want to teach regular like the regular English exposure ESL that everyone else was doing, and I wanted to really get into teaching English language arts, because I am a licensed teacher and I wanted to teach at a school where other licensed teachers were teaching, like licensed in their home country. So that's why I left to teach in Kuwait, even though I was concerned about living in Kuwait and I was concerned about my safety. After I got over that, I was traveling all over the world. I went and worked at other schools after that, and then I actually came back to Kuwait a second time around after teaching in China. So I was teaching in China, I was teaching in Kuwait, I taught in South Korea. I even did a brief time in Qatar. That work situation was toxic. And I had to leave. I can make a whole video about that. But what I noticed about myself is that even it didn't matter where I was going, there was like this something was going on with my spirit where it kind of felt like a low grade depression, anxiety. I was always dealing with that. So but what was great about teaching abroad was that because we were all foreigners, my coworkers, are mainly foreigners, we were able to bond more, and there was like more of a trust there, because we were all we got, so it was a trust there. It wasn't, and we weren't living in what's that word, and like we weren't living in like that scarcity mindset where we have to like one up each other and all this other stuff. Like it wasn't like that. Like it was a real nice community, especially in Kuwait. Even though teaching in Kuwait had its challenges, I think it was the most challenging teaching experience was teaching in Kuwait. I felt like I had a community, even though I really still preferred to be alone. Okay? So that was one thing about myself. It didn't matter where I go. I still had like this depression and anxiety that I was dealing with. And then I was also still kind of like an introvert. Like I needed to recharge. I needed time alone, or I would become very aggravated. So I still needed a significant time to myself. And if I felt like the conversations were not stimulating enough, then I would spend less time with those people. No shade to them. It's just I need to feel stimulated to want to hang out with, certain groups of people. So that's what I noticed about myself, is that it didn't matter where I go, I still needed my downtime. I still needed my alone time. Still was dealing with anxiety and like a little bit of depression. Did I have medication? Was I diagnosed with any of this? No. I just know there was an energy on me that made me feel low and sad. And then there was this other energy that made me feel so anxious and made me, overthink too much and all that stuff. And I'm blessed that I didn't have like a big old drug issue or whatever. Like I never turned to drugs to really cope. I do like the green ganja. Was it ganja? I do like that. I do like to have my I like to have like a lager, an IPA. I do like my beer on tap. and my my different wines, Chianti. Like I like my wines, I like my beers, I like I like my vices, and I would say my vices have not gotten in the way of anything for me. So that's a blessing, because I know other people who were also abroad like me, who were struggling with vices or were using vices to cope with anxiety, depression, and other mental health issues that they probably should be dealing with properly. Okay, so I'm thankful for that. But I knew I was getting older, and so I did come to the States one or two times to try to like settle back in the US. I even worked in Seattle for about I was there for about 7 months. I had got a job like 2 months after I had arrived there, and didn't like the job. I was a program assistant. Cool people though that I was working with, but the job was a bit stressful for me. And again, I was still dealing with, I can become quite anxious, intense quite easily. And I didn't have the best system for dealing with all of that just yet. And so I was just like, if this is how the jobs are going to be, this is how it's going to be working, because I wanted to get out of teaching. So, you know, and I tend to jump back into teaching because that's my comfort zone. And it's easy for me to get a teaching job versus trying to get a job in another field, you know. But the jobs that I would get that were non-teaching were stressful in other ways that I just felt like it wasn't worth the money to even feel all of that stress. So I didn't make attempts to work in the States. I don't like working in my home state. That's a given. And I'm back in my home state now. I'm back with my family. Right now I'm teaching online. And I'm like trying to figure out how I got to this point, because I'm not liking my situation back in the States, especially now that things are more expensive. And so I'm going to rewind. My thoughts are all over the place. But anyway, before I got to this point, I made my last attempt to come back to the States and settle down, because I was getting closer and closer to 40. So I came back during COVID. And at that time, during COVID, I was in South Korea, where we were handling COVID just fine, unlike the US, okay? So I decided, I was like, you know what? I didn't like the feeling of being away from family during a time like this, where there was like a virus going around and people didn't really know what was happening next. I didn't know who was going to die next. And so this made me think like, you know what, maybe this is a good time to come back home and start settling down in my home state of Michigan, maybe get married, things of that nature. Bad idea. So I did get a job as soon as I came back from South Korea. I had stayed in a hotel for about 2 weeks until my COVID test came back, you know, negative, and then my family was comfortable with me staying with them. So then I had issues with, you know, I got a car quickly through Carvana, another mistake. Then a job that I got in another city nearby was not to my liking. The pay was low. And at the time, I hadn't really been living in the US, so I really didn't know how much money I needed at that time, because like inflation was happening, and like I was only working like short times in the US, so I really wasn't sure of how much money I needed, because again, I've been spending most of my time abroad. So I'm like taking jobs, not realizing I actually need more money and that I need to be asking for more. Because I'm like so disconnected from the US. I'm like I don't know how to do a lot of things. There's certain things I don't know how to do. There's certain paperwork. I don't understand why there's so much paperwork for everything, because I'm not used to it. I've been living abroad, and like one thing I like about living outside of the US is like processes are so much simpler, and there's way less paperwork. And so I'm back in the States and everything is like piles and piles of paperwork just for little stuff. It was just annoying. But anyway, I kept going, even though back in my mind, I'm like, I'm not happy with any of this, you know, but at the same time, I've always kind of been a little unhappy anyway. And so that was like my default. My default energy was always kind of like a little bit sad, a little bit anxious. And then I have moments of happiness. So like that was my experience. So I was like, it's just me, you know, it's just me, like whatever. But I became less and less satisfied with my life in the States, you know, once I started to settle in more. So then I was like, you know what, maybe I just need to get my own home, and you know, because that's my next step, right? I'm getting closer to 40. I need to get my own home. Dating right now is trash, so I can't really spend too much time on dating. I only have so much energy after work anyway, and I just felt like dating was not a good use of my time, especially after work. Like, and then like the weekends, I like to use my weekends to like relax, and dating had turned into not a relaxing, not a fun thing for me. So I was just like, I'm gonna focus on stacking my money. I was able to stay with my mom at my mom's place at the time. Before she got this place, I stayed with her. She allowed me to save money so I can put, you know, money down on my first home, which I did. And I bought a condo by the lake, and I was like, yay. I was excited. It was a small condo. I liked living by the lake. It was nice. I didn't feel really comfortable with my neighbors, especially the new neighbor that had came in. And I think I'll talk about neighbors in another video. I didn't feel comfortable in the neighborhood that I was in, but I did like my condo. It was small and needed work. And when I realized that my condo needed more work than expected, and I calculated things and I was doing research on like, how can I get my home renovated and all this stuff, I was like, yeah, I'm about to be cash poor. So the only thing that I really updated on my condo was the kitchen appliances. So I got a new refrigerator, new stove put in, and a dishwasher. I think I got a new dishwasher. And they were all black, so it made the kitchen look a lot better, because it's like an old condo. It's like 1970s, right? So I was proud of it. I was proud of my little condo. I loved being there. I enjoyed it, but I was still like, okay, the job situation was not it. So I had several teaching jobs, you know, leading up to getting that condo and while I was in that condo. I'm a little bit tired, so if my eyes go cross-eyed, I'm ready to take a nap. I was taking a nap earlier and then I was interrupted. But anyway, so I realized I really, really hated teaching in the US. I was not getting what I wanted out of teaching in the US. And mainly because I can't travel. I can't go anywhere. It was hard for me to find people. Like when I'm abroad, even though I'm more introverted, when I lived outside the country, it was still easy to link up with people. Like there was no excuse to hang out with people when I was abroad. Like there was no excuse. If you wanted to hang out with there was always somebody willing to hang out with you, because that was the vibe. Like everybody was friendly. Everybody wanted to be helpful to each other. It's not like in the US where like you got to watch your back. Even as a teacher, you can't really trust other teachers these days. Okay, not in the US. So I was just like, man, I don't like my work situation. I don't like yeah, I felt like working as a teacher was stressful on me. Um, and it was more stress than it was worth. So I was like, man, I have to keep this home. I have to work these jobs I don't like, and I still can't travel. I still can't travel to other countries because, mind you, I traveled a little bit to other states, and I thought it was, first of all, it's too expensive to travel to other states, and it's not worth the travel. Like, I don't even know why the hotels cost as much as they do. I don't know why the taxis, the Uber, the Lyft, I don't know why they cost as much as they do. I don't feel stimulated enough. It doesn't make sense to travel state to state. I unless I'm going to like the Grand Canyon, something really cool, you know. It has to be something really cool that I want to see to warrant traveling state to state, because it's just expensive for no reason. So I was like, okay, I can't really afford to travel to where I want to go, which is to other countries. Having trouble finding people that I actually want to hang out with, that I trust, that are not manipulative and weird, from which is like, it seems like it's the American way to be manipulative and weird. Not hating on Americans, but I've been bumping into a lot of manipulative and weird people. And people not knowing how to deal with their own insecurities and their own issues without projecting, okay, onto other people. I started not liking going to work because I realized I couldn't trust people at work, that it wasn't like how it was abroad, where like you can hang out with the people that you worked with, you can drink, you can party, you can do some crazy stuff, and you don't have to worry about anybody spreading rumors or running your business, you know, telling your business or anything at work, because we living good. We don't have to pay rent. We don't have to pay utilities. You know, like, why would we mess up a good thing? We can have fun. We can travel to other countries for cheap because we're already on the side of the world where all the cool stuff is, right? So being in Kuwait, I can fly to Dubai. It takes only like an hour and 15 minutes to fly to Dubai. It only costs like, what, $40 to fly there from Kuwait. Like, nobody is unhappy at this point. Nobody is unhappy. Everybody's like, yay, like, no matter how stressful it is teaching in Kuwait, the fact that you can put your finger anywhere on the map and fly there and pay for school out of pocket, and pay off debt, invest and save. You can do all this stuff so easily living in Kuwait just by not having to pay rent and utilities. And you don't need a car. Okay? But now I'm back in the States, and I'm making more money. I'm making more money now. I'm making more money than the average person in my state. But I still can't afford to do the stuff that I did when I was living abroad. So I'm like, what is this all for? So I'm just going to come home to a condo by myself. Okay? Because finding a partner, I stopped. I was like, it's too much work. People are not being genuine out here, and it's dangerous. It's dangerous. Like, online dating is dangerous. I've come across some people that I'm like, yeah, God was watching over me. So I had to think. I was like, do I want to go back to Kuwait? Because again, Kuwait had its own issues. Kuwait is not a perfect place. China is not a perfect place. South Korea, you know, these places have their own issues, you know, but at the same time, when you don't have to pay rent and utilities, your your finances are allowed to, you're allowed to flourish. You're allowed to do a lot of things with your money that you're unable to do in the US. So I had to really think about, do I really want to stay here in the US? Now that I'm 40, I'm thinking about going back to teach, exposure ESL, not real ESL where you actually teach exposure ESL, just to get out of the country and not have to pay rent. And I might still do that because things are just so expensive right now. But the thing is, I came back to the States because I knew I was getting older and I thought this is what I'm supposed to do, and now I'm 40 and I don't really have anything to show for it right now because I sold my home because I was like, I can't hold it down. I cannot hold down working at jobs that I don't like just to come home to be in my condo when I know I am a nomad. I need to move around. I need to move around. I need to travel to other places and spaces. That's just who I am, And now that I'm more self-aware and now I'm taking care of myself a lot better and I understand myself more, and I know what to do when I feel anxious. I know what to do when I feel, that depressive energy coming over me. I know what to do now. So I'm taking better care of myself, but I'm not in the place that I want to be. I don't have my own place. Right now my life is it's like stuck. I feel stuck. I can't really go anywhere. I can't really do anything that I want to do because it costs too much money. And the jobs are not even worth the stress. So I'm thankful that I have, online work that I can do just to bring in some money while I figure this out. But it would be nice to find my tribe, while I'm in this transition. Just people to talk to about this. Being single, not feeling satisfied with work, not feeling satisfied with the overall lifestyle in the US. I'm trying to make it work. I'm trying to, trick myself into thinking that this is the life for me. I'm trying to trick myself into thinking that I'm going to be happy here, with my family when I'm not. My brain keeps changing. I keep changing every year, but everything around me especially in my hometown, in my city, it stays the same. I can't take it. I'm not gonna make it. I'm not gonna make it. So I have some things to work through. I'm going to journal today. And come up with a solution, figure something out. I mean, everything that I want to do costs money. So, but yeah, so that rounds it up. I came back. I did my final round and came back to the US to settle down because I thought that was what I was supposed to do, just to find out that I don't like living in America. There's nothing that I like about living in America at this time. But I'm hoping maybe I'll find my tribe. So that I'm holding out for. I'm holding out for finding my people, and then maybe I'll find some traveling buddies, some people that would want to move abroad with me. If you're one of those people, let me know. Leave a message in the comments. I think I'm going to set up some kind of Discord or something like that. So if anybody wants to, are interested about traveling, hitchhiking, camping, doing all kinds of stuff. I just want to try new things. If you're interested in that, I will probably put something up like a Discord so that I can kind of bring people together and just create my own community. Because that's the thing that I've been having trouble with, is finding community. And I really don't like Facebook. So I feel like it's the CIA of social media. All right. It's all the alphabets of social media. But anyway, that is my situation of why I came back to the States and how I feel about it now. It ain't for me. And so, but also teaching, I want to move on from that. I want to move on from teaching in person. Teaching online is okay. But I want to move on from teaching in person. I'm tired. I've been teaching in person for 12 years. I'm tired. Things have changed. Children have changed. Teaching in schools have become more challenging. So that's another issue. So I got a lot of stuff to figure out, like the job situation. Where am I going to live? How am I going to make money consistently while living outside of the US? So it's a lot to think about. And I hope I find a community here that will help me out, help me figure things out. And possibly we can meet up, if you're not crazy. But anyway, I'm going to end this video. So I hope you have a good day. Blessings to you. It is Sunday today, so enjoy your Sunday. And don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, share love, all that good stuff. All right. Bye-bye.